Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
So here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. It's the middle of the summer and I got to tell you, we had a fantastic weekend. How about this? The NBA Finals wrapped up. The Stanley Cup was finished. The French Open, well, another guy that wins all the time, just won again. And we have another Triple Crown winner. But we'll get to all that first because first things first, the Saints 3-day mini camp started this afternoon. And one thing you can say, it was very hot. Very hot indeed. One guy that did practice, but we have word from yesterday, the first-round pick, Marcus Davenport, as you know, these are pictures I got from the locker room last Thursday after OTAs. He will have to have surgery right after minicamp, but he's practicing right now, so it's not going to be a big deal. He's going to go through and rehab it for about 4 or 5 weeks, and they say he should be ready for training camp. I'm sure Sean Payton's going to bring him along slowly because they need him to be a big factor on this team. How about this? The College World Series begins this week. And you had the Super Regionals this weekend, and man, how exciting was that last night? I turned the TV on, sure enough, right in the 11th inning, and the last team to get in were the Florida Gators. They had a walk-off home run. The ball hit the guy's glove walking out, and it was a wonderful win. Florida, of course, is the team that beat LSU. Well, they were in the final series last year, and they are going to their 4th straight College World Series. 2 other SEC teams will be there. One is Arkansas. That's actually a team that LSU handled pretty much all season long. They won 3 out of 4 against them, including in the SEC tournament. And it might have been actually 4 out of 5 now that I think about it. I think they won both in the SEC tournament, and they beat them 2 out of 3 in the regular season. They'll be there. And Mississippi State, what a great story this is. Head coach Andy Cannizaro was let go early in the season, and then they went on and had a pretty okay season, and then they got hot during the regional and super regional, and there they are again. They have been a powerhouse for years. Not so great lately, but they're back in the World Series. 5 other teams, as you know, are in it. Oregon State, the team that should have won it probably last year, but LSU upset them. Well, that didn't happen this year. You saw they demolished LSU 26-1 over 2 games, and they did the same thing in that regional against Minnesota in the super regional. So they're going to join UNC. Texas Tech, well, Texas first, Texas and Texas Tech, both from the Big 12, of course, and Washington. This will be their first time for the Huskies to ever be in the College World Series. That's going to be fun. But the big news for me this weekend was the Belmont Stakes because you had another chance to get a Triple Crown winner. They've had 13 horses try since the last time, well, before American Farrell got it 3 years ago. 1978 affirmed was the Triple Crown winner. They had 3 and 5 year stretch during that time, but it had been 37 years for another one, and that was, like I said, American Farrell, but 13 horses had won the Derby and the Preakness, and 13 of those had failed until American Farrell. But how about this? This horse, Justify, it got it done. He won the Derby first, then the Preakness, and he got it done when a lot of folks said he couldn't get the third one. You know how long that race is. But one of my guests today said it was probably going to happen. His name is Mike Diliberto, and if that name's familiar, well, you know Buddy Diliberto, and Mike is his son. He's going to be here today. He is the odds maker at the fairgrounds, and I think that might be one of the greatest jobs in the world, but I can't wait to talk to him about that as well. But how about Bob Baffert? He put his name in elite company. Bob Baffert has now won 2 Triple Crowns. He had American Farrell in 15, and of course, this horse Justify in 18. Says there's only one other trainer that's ever gotten 2 Triple Crowns. So moving forward, the NBA Finals, a little anticlimactic, unfortunately. You know how much I love basketball. I wanted to see 5, 6, even 7 games. It wasn't going to happen. Cleveland came by twice. They got close, but the other 2 games were blowouts, including Game 4. Looked like Cleveland pretty much gave up in the second half, but the Warriors sweep the Cavs, and Kevin Durant, there he is right there, holding up his second straight MVP trophy. He was on fire. It could have gone to Steph Curry. It could have gone either way, but I think they gave it to a deserving candidate for sure. Stanley Cup, well, I was actually interested in this very much this year because I did live in Washington, D.C., right out of college for 4 years. That was my first real introduction to hockey. And if you're a Capitals fan, which I am, that's the only team I follow at all, well, you've seen close many times. They've only been to 1 Stanley Cup. They got swept in '98 by the Red Wings, and they always seem to blow 3-1 lead. So I was not sure that they were going to get it done, even though they were up 3-1. But you see Alexander Ovechkin. Alex is one of the greatest players in the NHL, maybe one of the greatest players in history, and he finally has his first Stanley Cup. And they've been running that thing around town. You know, the Caps have been around for 44 years, and this is their first championship. So congrats to them. And the first one, the city of Washington, D.C., well, that's the first thing they've had since the Redskins won in 1991, a very long time ago. Hey, let's move forward to the French Open. How about that? And Roland Garros over there in Paris, well, the Spaniard. Is this just a foregone conclusion every time? The number 1 seed, Rafael Nadal, had won 10 French Opens before this one. You see that powerful left arm. Well, he just won his 11th. And that is by far the most of any one person winning any particular major. He's won 11. That is incredible. He was a 1 seed, but so was Simona Halep, and she beat the American Sloane Stephens. Halep, the Romanian, won in the women's final, so congratulations to her. But soccer fans unite. I have Kenny Farrell today to break down the World Cup. I'm looking forward to this. Because of him, I have a very much renewed interest in soccer. Not that I had any before. Let's just say it's a new interest. But I'm enjoying this. I love the World Cup in 2014. I started watching it in '94 when it came to America. I was living in D.C., so I went up there and saw it as well. But I got to say this is going to be exciting. The co-favorites have to be, in my opinion, Brazil and Germany. Germany, who won in 2014, they look very strong again. So does Brazil. Argentina, by the way, was the runner-up in 2014. Remember Lionel Messi, who you see right there? Or Lionel. Well, they're always going to be in the mix if you have him, as will Spain, because they are always tough. The Spaniards will be tough to beat, but France and Belgium and England, well, they're all candidates, in my opinion, to win, but Kenny is going to break it down for us, and I'm looking forward to that. And golf fans, the 118th U.S. Open begins Thursday. How about all these sports having big events right now? I love it. Well, this one's at Shinnecock Hills. It's been there before. Who this year is going to emerge? Last year, Brooks Koepka, a very nice golfer, won it. But will it be one of the big boys? Will Ricky Fowler finally break through? Or is it going to be Jordan Spieth or one of the Dustin or Justins, Dustin Johnson or Justin Rose? Who is going to emerge in this one? We shall see. Hey, by the way, the baby cakes, well, they were 0-23 going into the 9th inning when they were trailing, and they lost 23 straight games. But guess what? They're 2-23 now because the last 2 days they have gone into the 9th trailing, and they won the game. And last night it was against Salt Lake, and they hit a 2-run homer by Andy Van Slyke's son, Scott Van Slyke. He got it done, so congratulations to the baby cakes. They'll be coming home soon, so give them that support. Hey, we got a great show. I have Garrett Temple. That's right, the Sacramento Kings. He's a 9-year NBA veteran. He was on John Brady's 2006 Final Four team. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Who would have thought that Garrett Temple would be the last one remaining that's in the NBA right now? But I tell you what, you can play defense and you can shoot a little. This guy gets it done. I am very much looking forward to seeing him. Mike Diliberto, like I said, is going to join us as well. And Kenny Farrell, all that's coming up next right here on Primetime Sports. Welcome back to Primetime Sports. I told you in that open how many things are going on right here, not just in New Orleans, but I mean around the country. You just had the French Open in, obviously the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup, and you have the U.S. Open starting now. And listen, it just seems like every sport is having some kind of climax right now. But basketball, I'm really sad because it's over. I was hoping to see a few extra games so this thing could get closer to the NBA draft, which is next week. But you know what? We decided to settle that. We have an NBA player right here. He was one of the starting members of that 2006 Final Four team that made us all so proud, particularly from LSU. But if you're from Louisiana, you should have been very proud of this team. They're all Louisiana born and bred, all right around Baton Rouge area, which was remarkable to me. How many teams that have been in the Final Four can say that they got them all, not just homegrown in their state, but pretty much around about a 50, 75-mile radius, which is pretty incredible. One of them right here, the guy who shut J.J. Redick down. You all know him, and he is the last remaining member of that team in the NBA right now. He plays for the Sacramento Kings, and his name is Garrett Temple. What is up, my man?
What's going on, Scott?
It's a pleasure to see you. And we talked a bit off camera, but the first time I met you, you were in your red shirt year. And I'm going to forget this because I had become an agent pretty much that year. And I was friends with Dale Brown, so he was trying to help me, and he says, you got to get to know College Temple. So I had been meeting with Dale at restaurants kind of over there by, where's his rib place that he loved? TJ Ribs, and he go to Ruth's Chris. But he said, hey, there's a new place called Walk-Ons. We're going to meet Collis over there, your dad, Collis Jr. And then I met you. And then I'm like, because you weren't as tall then as you are now, right?
I was about 6'4". I was about 6'4", about 165 pounds, which is part of the reason.
You're small.
Part of the reason I redshirted.
And what are you right now?
I'm about 6'6", about 195.
Yeah. You've grown quite a bit. So I'm like, man, this guy looks kind of slight. What's going on? But no, that's where I officially met you. And I've watched your career, man, and it's been phenomenal. Talk to us real quick. John Brady had that special group from Baton Rouge and one guy from St. Martinville, of course, and that was Daryl Mitchell. But that whole run you guys had with Big Baby, Tyrus Thomas, Daryl Mitchell, you and Darnell Lazar, Tasman Mitchell, who's been on this show. And by the way, Tasman's coming next week.
Okay.
Back, because I want to talk about his first year coaching. Taz is one of my favorite kids.
My God.
But that team, I remember I went to every one of those games. I went to Jacksonville when you got by Iona, and you barely got by. Let's throw that shot with Daryl Mitchell hit. Because John Brady, he better be thanking some Daryl Mitchell every Christmas because that shot was phenomenal. And then, of course, I was in Atlanta where I lived, and you took down Duke. There's Daryl Mitchell doing his thing.
Yes, sir.
And then you took down Duke, and then Texas to get to the Final Four. And I went to Indianapolis as well, which wasn't as sweet. Right. But still, the floor is yours, my man. Tell us all about it.
Man, it was amazing. First of all, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Heard a lot about the show. Glad to be a guest. It was amazing. We had a great group of guys. Like you said, we were all from Baton Rouge, basically. If a few guys, Tasman was from Denham Springs, Daryl Mitchell was from St. Martinville.
Yes.
But we had all played against each other at least since we were 12 years old.
Sure.
Especially myself, Tasman, Glenn Davis, Tyrus Thomas, Darnell Lazar.
Yeah.
We all played with Sports Academy or against Sports Academy in our 10, 12, 14, 16-year-old days. And then Daryl Mitchell, being a couple of years older than us, we knew him and had played against him. Tasman had played against Daryl his whole high school career, as well as Darnell playing against Daryl.
Sure.
So it was just great when you went to school with guys and you were playing with guys that were your friends. You weren't meeting new guys.
And you knew each other intimately.
You knew each other intimately, so you knew each other on the court. You hung out with each other the whole time, and it was just you had a great group of guys and just a great sense of what each other knew, how each other played, and how the spots guys wanted the ball on the floor, the personalities. You just knew each other like the back of your hand. So like I said, it was playing with friends. You're just out there hooping. And until we made it to the Final Four and made it to Atlanta is when we realized, wow, we're doing something special. When we're about to play against the Dukies, as Glenn called them.
The Dukies.
The Dukies. And I remember watching the show, the bracket show, when we got the 4 seed.
Yeah, if you get
and
there.
I talked to my brother, and I saw that Duke was the 1 seed, and if you make it to the Sweet 16, you have to play Duke. And I remember thinking that season that, J.J. Redick was averaging like 28 a game.
I went to the game at Duke because I was recruiting him and Shadley Randolph when he got the record over Johnny Dawkins.
Okay.
So he was Duke's all-time leading scorer.
So he was shooting the ball, but he didn't have any. He wasn't really putting it on the ground much. So I remember telling my brother, I think I can guard him. Coach Brady had a great great assistant coaches. I remember John Treloar was really great at pumping guys up.
So you saying that the
me.
assistant coaches are what made John Brady?
Check you out. You said that.
I just said,
I love
I'm
Coach
having
Brady.
fun. He's my
love
guy. You know
that's
that.
my guy.
All right,
but
all right.
I remember telling my brother Collis, I can guard him. I think I can shut him down. And then we ended up making it to Atlanta, and he texted me and said, you got your chance now. So let's see
I'm
what
going
you're
to say
do.
this, Garrett. I'm glad you're sitting here because look at the D right here. You're all in his grill. But that game, and I got chills thinking about it again, I swear, because I was on the 4th row in the Georgia Dome, and I'm like, when y'all beat them, I mean, there's some I'm an LSU graduate, and I loved Warren Morris's home run in '96. I loved when LSU beat #1 Florida in '97 when they were kind of on the comeback with Kevin Falk. But if you have to ask me one game, because I love basketball so much, that I think meant the most to me, and my father went to Duke too, and it was like that game. I swear, and I think it's almost any sporting event, other than maybe the Saints winning the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship, this particular game gave me the most pride, and I'll never in my life forget it. And everybody kind of remembers. It's kind of like the U.S. hockey team. Everybody thinks when they beat Russia, that was the gold. It wasn't. Right. It was the game before, but nobody remembers they had to beat Finland. Well, nobody remembers you had to beat Texas to get to the Final Four.
Exactly.
Texas had LaMarcus Aldridge and Boobie Gibson, and they were pretty good.
And P.J. Tucker.
And P.J. Tucker, who's still playing.
Exactly. He was the Big 12 Player of the Year that year.
Oh, my goodness.
P.J. Tucker was the Big 12 Player of the Year.
And they were great in their own right, and
Yes,
that's why
sir.
they got to the Elite Eight. But beating Duke, that has to be something that you have to think about all the time. Because I know, I talk to Reddick still, and particularly Shavlik, and they both say, man, when I think back to our careers, that is what it comes up first, and it's not a good thought.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when you were bringing it up, I got chills myself. You know, that's the one thing everybody talks about. Like you said, they don't remember us beating Texas. They're meaning us beating Duke.
Right.
But, you know, still to this day when I see JJ, we rarely talk about it, but it's a respect factor. You know, obviously being NBA guys that play against each other now. But it's something that I'm never going to forget. You know, us being so young as well. You know, we had 3 freshmen, 1 true freshman, myself and Tyrus were redshirt freshmen, Glenn a sophomore, and then a junior and Darnell Lazar, our 6th man, and then Daryl Mitchell, our lone senior. Being that young and beating that team that had JJ, Shavlik, but also Sheldon Williams, who was the
Sheldon
player,
Williams,
you know,
6th pick of the draft.
Exactly.
I was living in Atlanta.
I want to say he was ACC Player of the Year, and JJ Redick was National Player of the Year.
Could have been.
It was, and that's how good that team was.
They were great.
They were amazing.
Make no mistake about it.
To beat them was big time. And for us not to, you know, Coach ain't let us have a letdown against Texas, and we had to beat them.
And I want to remind people also when Coach left, your senior year, I think it was your senior, 09?
09, yeah.
Yeah, when you had that great run and you went in North Carolina, y'all were the only team
that didn't lose by 20.
That played them tough. And I was at I went to the Final Four and Carolina won. But I remember watching that because you beat Butler. That was a great game. Mm-hmm. And then you came back and Carolina, it was like a 1-2 point game late in the game, and they ended up pulling away by 8 or so.
In Greensboro.
Right.
In Greensboro. So first of all, we were 13-3 in the SEC. I won it outright, but they were saying the SEC was down. So they gave us an 8 seed after being 13-3.
Crazy.
8 seed, had to play against Butler.
I actually thought y'all were 14-2. You 13-3?
13-3. We were 14-2 the year we went to the Final Four.
Okay,
06.
I got you. Okay.
And then had to play against Gordon Hayward and, you know, the coach,
I remember
Brad Stevens. And then Ty Lawson had 2 points in the first half against us, had a toe injury, came back and had 22 in the second half. Me and him, we were teammates a year and a half ago in Sacramento. He always brings that up to me.
Oh, he does?
He always brings it up. And Aaron Flalo and Darren Collison bring it up.
You have UCLA. UCLA, they bring that up too. Of course they do. And that was in the Final Four, by the way, for people that don't know. But you have class. You don't bring it up to JJ every time because it's obvious. We all know.
Right.
We all know what happened. But here's the other thing. And be honest with me. When you looked at all those guys, Tasman seemed like he was a McDonald's All-American in 9th grade. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, he was one of these guys that you heard of real early on because he was very well, he matured early. And I think he was a great player at LSU. He's in the top 5 in so many categories. People don't even realize.
Exactly.
But when you talk about Tasman, you talk about Big Baby, who won an NBA championship his first year with the Celtics. Tyrus Thomas, who I believe was the 4th pick of the entire draft. Yep. And the other guys. Did you have any dream that you would be the guy that lasted the longest in the NBA?
I did not. Coming out of college, I just hoped to get a shot at the NBA, honestly. Maybe thinking, okay, I'll play overseas a few years. But I had a chance to, you know, Houston brought me in for training camp and things went from there. You know, went to the D-League, had to grind my way up. So understood how I didn't want to take anything for granted when I made it to the NBA. continued to work hard and, got lucky breaks, guys. You have to have a little luck in a journey like I've had, and then I think my professionalism.
Well, you can appreciate it.
I think my professionalism has really carried me and held me throughout, and then I continue to get better every year in terms of shooting the ball, trying to distribute the ball.
Coaches have to love you because you care about defense, you care about being a professional. I mean, listen, everybody's got their own thing, whatever thing they do in life or whatever sport they play that makes them stand out. But the first thing that anybody spends 5 minutes with you, they're like, this man's professional. He cares about his craft. He cares about what he does. He cares about other people. And you can tell the way you are. And I watched you, by the way, you lit up the Pelicans because that game, I was here and I'm like, is this guy ever going to miss? I mean, I'm like, did you remember the game I talked about this year? I do remember that
game. Yeah, we played well. We played well that game.
Real well.
We played well.
Too well.
Our head coach was out that game when we had our assistant coaching, and we had,
so
we
you
were free.
Freelance.
We were free.
You freelance. And by the way, Zach Randolph is one of my favorite human beings on earth. I have a picture of Zebo. My kids were literally like 3 and 1, and he's picking them up in my backyard. He stayed at the crib, and he's holding me. He's like trying to dunk them both, and it was so cute. But Zebo has still remained. Every time I see him, he's like, "How's Zach?" Yeah. He goes, "Little Zach." Yeah. He goes, "How's little Zach and Skylar doing?" I'm like, and he's still the same fun-loving guy.
Great guy.
I mean, you have to love him as a teammate.
Love Zach Randolph. Love Zach Randolph as a teammate. Very humble guy. Has been through a lot of different things in the NBA.
No doubt.
So
in his life, too.
Exactly, in his life, knows how to reiterate that to the young people. Myself and him 2 or 3 years ago went to the summer league and talked to the incoming guys about just how to handle your money, how to handle your personal relationships, things of that nature when you're coming into the NBA. And then I was lucky enough to have him as a teammate this past year in Sacramento, and he still got it. One of those Pelicans games, he lit y'all up too.
Oh, goodness.
A couple of big threes.
He hit that three from the corner, and he was packed in. I'm like, Zebo, stop! I mean, he had like 35 in that game.
Exactly.
Is that Collison right there?
That's Darren. He's probably
there. Yeah.
And Ty Lawson behind.
Yeah, they're both talking about how they beat you.
Talking about how they beat me in college.
UCLA in 06 in the final, and yeah, Ty Lawson. They're talking trash.
Exactly.
Hey, they said, "Hey, boy, at least I was there at both those games." Hey, going forward, NBA career, you had some time with the Spurs, not very long. And then Bobcats, but I mean, the Wizards kind of made your name, I felt. Yeah. That team, and then all of a sudden, you were the guy that not just was a defensive specialist, you were playing some big minutes besides that.
Yeah. Had 3, 4, 5 teams before I got to the Wizards. After I came back from Italy, the 1 year that I haven't played here, Wizards picked me up, and I was there before John Wall was hurt, so I was playing a lot of point guard.
A lot of point guard, right.
Bill got hurt, I was playing a lot of shooting guard, and I was that guy, that glue guy. And they really, like you said, spurred my career in the right way. I give a lot of credit. Got to give a lot of credit to Randy Whitman and Ernie Grunfeld, the GM there, for giving me a chance to really have an NBA career. Because of them, I was able to do what I did there, and then Sacramento gave me an opportunity.
I got to ask you, because you were teammates with Boogie Cousins. Yeah. And Boogie, if you know Boogie, you love Boogie. But if you don't know Boogie, and I've gotten to know him, and listen, man, I try to tell people all the time, I'm like, he is a fun-loving guy. He really is. Yeah. He's got that on-court demeanor because he wants to win so bad. And now he's with a winner, and I'm not asking you where he's going to go. I mean, I know true Pelicans fans want him here. Right. But what's your take on Boogie Cousins?
Man, I love Boogie, like you said. When you know him, you understand that all of the things that he does on the court, the antics, quote-unquote antics that he does, it's all about winning. He's such a competitor and wants to win, and wants to win for his team, not only for himself. He's not a selfish guy by any means. And once you understand that, then you can understand the things that he's doing. People have different ways that they do things. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. So my thing with Cuz is once he respects you, or once he understands that he can respect you, then he's going to do whatever he can for you. He's going to do whatever he can for you.
You know what?
He
doesn't
like fake guys. So.
And exactly.
He doesn't like fake.
And he can in the locker room. He'll
in 2 minutes. Within a minute
knows.
of meeting somebody,
and that's what
know.
Some people say. Why is Boogie not giving me the time of day? Because
he knows
the same reason I wouldn't give you the time of day.
Exactly.
Because I don't believe you.
Exactly.
But hey, as far as there's something defense was your calling card in college, and I have a kind of a collage of the way you played. You're so long for one. With some guys like Vince Carter, you'll get up on them, but also like. LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, you were one of the best guys coming from behind and blocking guys on the break because you are long.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, your length is long, and I've seen so many of these like this, and I've just pulled up a bunch of highlight packages too. But you're a good shot blocker for a guy that plays a lot of point guard.
Yeah. What you were saying about Tasman, I didn't realize somebody brought something up. Ended up being top 10 in block shots at LSU.
At LSU.
But I always was a guy that had a pretty good timing.
And
like
you
said,
foul
chasing
too if you need to.
Oh, no question. And you
That's
gotta
a Greek freak.
You got to foul. You got to get him above their arms.
Yeah.
You can't
if
touch
you're gonna foul, don't let him get that M1.
You can't let him get that shot up.
Right.
Because he's strong as I don't know what now. But I think it's just timing. I had a long wingspan. I was about 6'11" across there.
That's what I told Brady.
Yeah.
I said, I bet he's 6'11"
about
wingspan.
6'11", yeah. Especially with if I don't cut my fingernails. Yeah. So I was always the guy in high school being able to pick guys if they try to cross over and things of that nature. Alonzo G, who used to play at Alabama,
I know
he used to
Alonzo.
tell me during their scouting, the coach would say, "Don't play with it around him," because that's what he does.
Because he knows it.
It's a little tougher, and the NBA guys can handle it a little better, but you got to pick your spots. So I think, and just understanding angles. I'm never the quickest, never was the most athletic, but I was able to understand what guys wanted to do.
Angles are so important.
And take
My
him out
goodness.
of it. Yeah.
And you're swiping Lewis Williams right here. He didn't know what just happened to him.
He's tough.
Boy, has he improved. Hey, by the way, and you become a really, really good shooter. And there's a thing that somebody put out, shooting secrets. And I'm watching some of your film. So what is your shooting secret, Garrett?
Work. You practice. That's my shooting secret. You practice. Put up shots.
No chicken wings, right?
No chicken wings. You got to have the elbow in.
You know what I'm talking about.
You got to have the elbow in.
Elbow in.
This is tough to get. This is tough. You practice
the wrong way. But a lot of kids grow up that way.
Because you try to push it.
Right.
You got to practice. I mean, Steph Curry was talking about when he was in middle school, how he was out there for hours and his dad made him change his shot because he was shooting the wrong way.
Because he was small.
He was small trying to get it. Exactly.
Right.
So practice the right form, and then eventually strength is going to allow you to shoot from further distance.
Well, I was the same way, like Steph small growing up, so I was pushing it, but I always could shoot from outside. But then Pistol Pete Camp, I'll never forget, like in the mid-'70s, he said, no chicken wings, get the follow through and tuck it in.
Tuck it in.
And after that, it's history. Hey, by the way, are you going to be our governor one day? Because I really think you should think about this. You or your brother, one be the governor, the other be the lieutenant governor, and whoever's governor first, there you go. That's big day. By the way, Collis was on this very show, sitting where you were almost a year ago today. Mm-hmm. And I love that man, one of the greatest first African-American athlete. Not just basketball player, in the history of LSU sports, that's got to be a source of pride.
So, first basketball player. One guy was a track guy the year before. He always wants us to say that just to make sure they don't take it away from him.
So they give that guy some who was that guy?
Credit. I can't remember
his
name.
You don't remember his name.
Exactly. We're actually one of my dad's real good friends as well. But I'll let Collis do the politics. I don't know just yet. I'm worried about this basketball, and I really want to get into that front office role when I finish.
Front office?
That's
even better.
Front office
That's
role.
even better.
Yes,
Forget
sir.
the politics.
I have to deal with people like you.
Forget the politics.
I wouldn't mind that.
Absolutely. I got to tell you, you're the first person we're giving a task shirt to. These are, have you ever felt these? They're the softest shirt you'll ever put on. That is bamboo fiber technology, and I wear them every day. Really? I wear the underwear. I never wear anything else. I'm just telling you.
Wow.
That's all I wear. You will love it. And if you come down to New Orleans again, I know you're in Baton Rouge and obviously Sacramento during the season. That's uptown New Orleans.
Okay.
And it's on Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway. But I can't thank you enough.
Much appreciated.
It's been so much fun.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Scott.
Garrett, Temple, there's Collis Jr., there's Collis III, and there's Garrett. And I guess I got to get Collis III on.
Yes, sir.
Because I love his teams too.
Right.
And by the way, is John Brady the best coach you've ever had? He's in the studio, so yes.
Best coach I've ever had. Definitely best defensive coach I've ever had.
Best defensive coach. JB, we got you on that one. Hey, we're not done yet. We are going to talk some World Cup soccer. Hey, listen, I've never talked soccer on the show at all, and all of a sudden I've talked 3 times in the last month and a half. But hey, World Cup is starting, so I have to do it. And we have a Triple Crown winner, and I've got Buddy Diliberto's son. Can you believe that? Buddy D, the icon of New Orleans. He's coming up after that to talk Triple Crown, and he makes all the lines of the fairgrounds. We'll be right back on Primetime Sports.
Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
The owners of the Delachaise Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachaise, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachaise, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my, oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At the mid-city lanes, the home of rock and roll. Welcome back to Primetime Sports, and always love having basketball players on here. And Garrett Temple is a guy that, I'm going to say that if you're a young basketball player, that is the example you want to follow. His work ethic is incredible, and that is why he is still in the NBA. Hey, moving forward, well, for the rest of the world, this might be the biggest week in the world because the World Cup, which is every 4 years like the Olympics, begins this Thursday. Of course, it's in Russia, like we talked about in the Open. They open with Saudi Arabia. But they're not, neither of those two are the favorites. If you follow soccer at all, it's pretty much Brazil and Germany and Argentina and Spain and France and several others. But nobody better than a guy from Ireland to talk about it. He is the head coach of the New Orleans Jesters. Yes, he was here about 6 weeks ago. But I want to catch up on his Jesters, and I want to talk some World Cup. So here he is again. His name is Kenny Farrell. Welcome back, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah.
How you been on the road? You got a split this weekend, Georgia Revolution. I know you lost a tough one to Knoxville on Wednesday. We had your players in, and that was fun. Adam Torres and, of course, Mason Walsh. And then you got the victory on the road on Saturday night against the Georgia Revolution.
Yeah, very happy with that result. Disappointed in Knoxville. I thought that Georgia were a better team than Knoxville. It just didn't go for us on the night. Missed a couple of chances, left them in the game. They scored one late, and they beat us. So we travel on to Georgia, and we get a great victory down there after it. So
well, that was a big victory because that's the one I was worried about. I felt when I talked to you players that y'all had taken care of, the Knoxville team pretty easily at home, correct?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And I thought they felt that they might win that. I'm just saying from the outside looking in. So I was like, because on the road they said that it's a real, we all know that home court advantage is big in basketball, home field advantage is big in football and even in baseball. But I didn't realize it was so big in soccer, maybe in the minor levels. So, but it is big.
Yeah, it is. Home advantage is very important in any game, and because it's not the same. Like in basketball, it's the same court, right? It's the same size. Field size is different. Surfaces are different that you play on. The environment that you get ready for the game is different everywhere you go. So you have to adjust differently when you're on the road. When you're at home, it's always the same, right? You know what you're playing at. But
well, I didn't realize the fields could be different. Where does the Revolution play by
They play in a place called McDonough, just outside Atlanta.
Oh, I know McDonough, south of Atlanta, right.
Their field is narrower than ours by about 6-7 yards narrower, so we have to adjust the way we play.
So do the Atlanta Silverbacks, the other team from there, don't play at Georgia Tech still, or they not?
No, they're playing at Silverback Stadium. They've got their own stadium right in the heart of Atlanta.
Right, okay. Right, Midtownish, kind of downtown, Midtown, that's cool. Let's move forward, though. Sure. Wait, by the way, one more thing on your team. Playoffs are around the corner. I mean, you're past the midway point now, right?
Yeah. Like we've got a home stretch of 3 games right now, and if we do well in those 3 games, it's Atlanta tomorrow night. Yeah. Chattanooga Saturday, and the following Saturday Nashville. If we win those 3, we're pretty much guaranteed.
So tomorrow night's a home game.
Yeah, Atlanta Silverbacks.
7 o'clock at Pan American Stadium. All right, come on, get out there and support. I went to a couple games last year towards the end. It's a lot of fun, nice crowd, and they need your support. They need that home court advantage, home field advantage, I should say. And last year, this team had 4 ties, but they had no losses. This year, I think you're 4-2-1. Yeah. Still a great record, and get out and support. They're fun to watch, and they work hard, too.
Yeah, we do.
All right, moving forward, the World Cup.
Yes.
And I want here, let's just start here. What's your first recollection as a young lad in Ireland of the World Cup? Kind of give me some
1970.
background. All right.
I was born in 63, but 1970 in Mexico, and England were the world champions. They'd won it in 66. I was just starting to watch soccer, so some of those players I knew. Obviously, there wasn't as much soccer on TV, but my dad was a big fan. And then Pele was playing, and it was held in Mexico.
Pele to us.
Pele, yeah. And one of my favorite games to this day is a bracket game where England played Brazil, and Brazil beat them 1-0 with 2 of the greatest teams on the field at the time, and it just stuck in my memory, and I watch it over and over again.
Well, it's funny because you are a couple years older, not much, but Pele is my first memory, but I don't think it was 70. I think it was more 72 to 74, and then they had the soccer league that started. I remember he was a New York Cosmos. Yeah. That's kind of my big memory. Yeah. And then I was in other sports, and then 94, was when I reconnected with soccer at all, and watched it because it was playing the World Cup. That's the last World Cup that's been here.
The last World Cup here was 94, yeah.
Right.
Well, it was the first and last.
1994,
yeah,
first and last.
It really kicked off the new revolution in soccer in the United States, that World Cup. And then we had the Major League start the year later in 95, I think it was, or 96.
And that league's now 23 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to say this. Before we get to this year's World Cup, real quick, the Americans, the U.S. has a chance to get the World Cup again in 2026, and that's going to be decided this week, right?
On Wednesday, FIFA, the controlling body, get together and they vote, and it comes down to either Morocco or a joint bid from Canada, Mexico, and the United States, with the United States having 85% of the games. And remember, in the World Cup in 2026, they're expanding from 32 finalists to 48 finalists.
So the Americans have a better chance.
Yeah.
Hey,
if they don't make that one, we got trouble.
Right. The host company does not get an automatic bid?
Host country gets automatic bids.
So they got a good chance then. If they can get it. Morocco might get it, but let's hope for the Americans. Okay, let's start with this. It starts Thursday. The host team, Russia, kicks it off with Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start there. There's Putin right there. You know he really wants to do well. How are the Russians going to fare?
Well, they should. They're not a great team. They're not a great team, but they're a host team. So, I would say that they will do well based on the fact that they're in Russia. They're an average team. They need to overachieve. And if you were a skeptic, you would say that they might get some good calls. And things might go their way that may not have.
They're in Russia, so I'm a skeptic. Yes.
So
I think they're going to get
I'll leave your imagination up to that one.
Well, I'm going to say this: Russia, a host country has always advanced, haven't they? Pretty much.
Well, the host
second round.
Well, as far as I can remember, yes, except for I think South Africa. I think I can't remember. I can't recollect. But I'm not so sure that on any given day, this team would naturally advance. But being in Russia, I am putting my money on them.
You feel
through.
Pretty good. Okay, go to the bookie. All right.
It's not brown envelope money. It's just.
It's not brown, but you can do it legally. Hey, let's talk about the favorites here.
Yeah.
Last time it was Germany. It was exciting. It was thrilling. They beat Argentina. Are they back?
Oh yeah. I mean, they probably most people's favorites. Not mine, Brazil, but they're just a super side. And very seldom do you get an international soccer team that if you took off their first 11 and put on their next 11, they could still win it, and that's how deep they are.
And this is the coach that likes to smell his. That's the same guy. I recognize him.
He's a little weird.
ESPN put that on 1,000,000 times. He's a little bizarre. So you're obviously saying that they should get deep. You're not picking them to win. You are picking the Brazil team to win. Why?
Simply the best team in the world. Player for player, they're the best everywhere. And if they stay healthy and they click, they're going to be the most magic side to watch. But the thing is, though, it's in Europe, and a lot of times the South Americans don't win in Europe. But I think that's changing because a lot of the players now are playing in European leagues. Is Neymar still the
star of this team?
Oh yeah, he's Neymar. You can go through a bunch of players, but Neymar will be a star in this World Cup, absolutely.
All right, so you're picking Brazil. Are there any teams that are right next to Brazil and Germany that you think, not the dark horses, but the teams who are the next best teams?
Well, France could do extremely well. It depends on the chemistry, and if they get the tactics right and everything's going well. Everything's got to go well for them, but they have the players. France, Spain have won it before. They've got players in that squad that have won it 8 years ago, and they know how to win it, but they're getting a little bit old, but they're very, very good. The one you have to watch is Portugal. Because when you think of Cristiano Ronaldo, the one thing he hasn't won in the world is the World Cup.
Yeah.
And if you're one of the best players in the world or the best player in the world, that is what you want on your trophy cabinet. You want that World Cup. So he may lift that team, and if they play well, he can win it for them.
I know millions of women are rooting for Cristiano Ronaldo. Okay, let's just say that he is loved by the ladies, and he's a darn good soccer player. Is he the best? Who is the best in the world right now in soccer? Is Lionel Messi still up there?
Well, it's hard to separate them. They're different types of players, but one is as effective as the other on the field. They're both geniuses in soccer. I certainly don't want to pick one over the other.
But you say those are pretty much the guys?
Yeah,
okay.
Neymar's up there.
Okay, what about teams like Belgium?
Yeah, Belgium have a really good squad of very, very good players. The problem is they don't seem to have the chemistry. They don't click like they should. Every time you watch them, you think they're underachieving. And if you're going to win this thing, you can't underachieve. Even if you're the best team in the world, you need to be overachieving all the time because the World Cup is so difficult to win. Now, they've got to get out of this underachieving kind of performances that they have and really overachieve if they're actually going to go win it.
It seems like, for me, the last, I don't want to say 20 years, but let's just say few World Cups, when you think of England, you think of Rooney. And I think he's retired, right?
He is retired. Yeah.
Okay, but they still have some good players. You mentioned one of them the last time we were here, and he is the leader of that team now.
Wayne, it's the striker.
You're drawing a blank.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
He's right there. Yeah. He's the second from the right. He's the third from the right, second from the left. That's his picture.
Yeah.
I know it's a short name. Hey, we're going to get Harry Kane.
Yeah, Harry Kane. That's right,
I'm looking at it. Thank you for putting the names up. And you're from Ireland, and you couldn't get that one.
I had a blank. I had Diliberto on my mind, which is another player that plays for them.
But you like this team as a dark horse.
They are a dark horse because they're young, they're not as experienced. But all these players that play for England play in one of the top leagues in the world and are very effective in the English Premier League every week. And if they get the balance right, again, it's all about them overachieving on the day. But the goal scorers, if they can score, if Dele Alli in midfield shows the class that he has to get players in the game, he plays pretty much like a Brazilian, as any Brazilian you can see. If he gets his game going, and I think he's maybe 20 years old, if he gets his game going, you've got goal scorers. If the back four can, keep it tight at the back and not give anything away, these might be a dark horse. They might slip all the way through.
All right, so give everybody the rundown. There's 32 teams, and you said there's going to be 48 the next one, but there's 32. You see the groups right there. What pops out to you in groups? You know, I mean, I want you to just kind of look, and we don't have to belabor it, but look through there. And we mentioned already Russia, we mentioned Portugal, we mentioned France, Argentina, Belgium, Germany, and Brazil. That's 7 teams. Yeah. Let's, for instance, look at Group H. So 2 of these teams from each group will advance to the next round, right?
Yeah. There'll be the top 2 will go through from each, and they'll go into a quarterfinal. When you look, let's look at it this way. If you look at Africa, who's really going to get through from Africa? If Nigeria play extremely well, could they get through? Probably so, but you've got Croatia and Iceland. Argentina should win Group D. Iceland have something special about them. They've got a population of 350,000 people, and they seem to be able to play. They're not attractive, but they seem to be able to play against anybody in the world. They might be a side that will slip through. And
by the way, they have 350,000. Yeah. Don't we have 350 million?
Yeah,
I mean, doesn't Baton Rouge have more people than Iceland? I mean, what is up with this?
And Iceland qualifies from a much tougher region of the world than the United States does. They qualify from Europe.
You're just making us feel worse and worse about what's going on here.
It wasn't good. I mean, it was unacceptable that the U.S. didn't make it. They have to make it the next time around.
I mean, wasn't it Trinidad and Tobago? All they had to do was win that game, and they couldn't get. Nothing against Trinidad and Tobago if you're from there, but but no offense. That's one I thought we should have, right?
Yeah. No, look, the team should have been through. It's unacceptable. I hope they're rebuilding for the next 4 years because you need those players to get ready. But they haven't named a head coach yet. They haven't since they got eliminated in November. They still haven't named a head coach.
So it was Bruce Arena before.
It was Bruce Arena who took over from Jurgen Klinsmann. And
see, I know a little bit.
Yeah,
I know a little bit just to get me through. I knew Klinsmann.
Look,
I know.
Can you imagine the difference right now in this build up to the World Cup if the United States had been in it? The ramp up would have been fantastic, and it would have been great for the sport in America.
Goodness.
It was so unacceptable.
Well, can we just hope on Wednesday that we get the World Cup for 2026?
Well, I tell you what, if we don't get it, there's going to be a lot of people on the hot seat at U.S. Soccer, the United States Soccer Federation.
Like they aren't already.
Yeah, they're already on it. If they don't get this,
all right. For the first time in our 130 shows, we are giving 2 gifts to our guests, and you'll be the first recipient.
Wow.
Well, you're going to be the second because Garrett was just the first.
Okay.
But you, Mike, and Garrett, so you got the gift certificate to Shays Deliché's, which I know you use.
Yep, we
do, and your wife do go.
Yep.
Your wife is the owner of the team at the Jesters.
Right.
Well, I'm sure you both own it. And here's Task Performance, by the way.
Perfect.
Task Performance just feels so good on your body. That's all I can say.
It's great stuff.
I wear it all the time, and it's phenomenal. And I know you love it, right?
Yeah, I love it.
You can practice.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's not quite the Jesters colors, but you can do it in practice.
It's my color.
My man, Kenny Farrell.
Thank you.
Check them out. Check the Jesters out, please. They play this tomorrow night, Wednesday night at Pan Am at 7. And what's the next home games?
Chattanooga, Saturday at 7 o'clock.
And Saturday, no excuse for Saturday. You have no kids, no nothing. Saturday, try that one too. 2 games this week. Hey, we're coming right back. We got Mike Diliberto. That's right. That's Buddy's son. But hey, he's made his own life, and he's doing so well. He is the odds maker at the fairgrounds. We're going to talk Belmont and only the second horse in the last 40 years to win the Triple Crown. That's right, it's Justify. We'll be right back on Primetime Sports.
Jenny says, turn off the radio. Jenny says, turn off the lights. Jenny says, turn off the video. You beat yourself up, you bring yourself down. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Let it go, let it go, let it go. When the world is coming.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Hey, we've talked to Garrett Temple. I just now talked about the World Cup with Jesters head coach Kenny Farrell. And this weekend, I was all about the horse racing because the NBA Finals had just ended the night before. The Stanley Cup had ended 2 nights before. But the Belmont Stakes had a chance for a Triple Crown winner, and the horse that eventually won it, Justify, well, he was 1-1, sometimes even 4-5, which means he's below even money. And he ended up getting it done. And a lot of times you see the big Browns in 2008, Smarty Jones in 2004. If you remember those big horses, they were considered unbeatable, and they were beaten pretty easily. So that's why a lot of people weren't too sure about Justify because the Belmont's such a long track. But Justify got it done. Bob Baffert won his second Triple Crown, and he's won so many Kentucky Derbies, tons of Preaknesses and some Belmonts as well. And this guy has put himself certainly in that upper echelon of trainers. But here, my next guest is the guy who sets all the lines. He is the line maker, the odds maker, whatever you want to call him, the morning line guy at the fairgrounds. And his name is very familiar because in this town, if you mention Buddy Diliberto, you're talking icon status. And this is his son, Mike, who, by the way, is a dozen years older than me, but it looks like he's a dozen years younger than me. I can't believe this.
Well,
Mike Diliberto, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, man.
I'm glad to be here, Scott. I like it. You love horse races, so that means you're all right in my book.
I love it. I love it. I mean, listen, basketball is my sport. I love it. I love football and all, but horses to me is just a fun release. You get over the track, and even if you don't bet a dime, it's just fun to watch the beauty of these horses do their thing.
Oh, they got some gorgeous animals that come out there, and they pay a lot of money for a lot of them, too, several $1 million. And Justify was one. If it was a beauty contest, I think he'd have won the race before it started because he's a gorgeous-looking animal.
He is. And by the way, this book I have right here has been, if you ever look at my coffee table right here, I always have a couple Saints books and an LSU book up there. But if you look at this name over here, I guess it's over here. The camera always messes me up. That's Buddy Diliberto. And he wrote the foreword. This is his book. And first thing Mike did, he goes, I see you got the book right there. And I wasn't positive what you're talking about. I'm like, that's right, that's Buddy D. But anyway, what was it like growing up with Buddy Diliberto? He's your dad.
It was great because, we got to go to a lot of really big sporting events and meet a lot of, important people in the game that played the game and all. In fact, he wrote that book with the Saints, but he was the announcer at the Tulane Stadium for 2 years for the Saints. He did the play-by-play announcers, and me and my brother were two of the spotters that helped him out with the thing. And we actually did the Super Bowl, Minnesota Vikings and the Kansas City Chiefs. We were the announcers at the game for that game, and that Kansas City actually that brought the AFL back into progress.
You see all this old stuff. See, a lot of the younger people, some of them weren't even really paying attention yet. If you're under 25, you probably don't really remember Buddy Diliberto except you heard about him. But I remember him growing up as the TV sportscaster. And I remember Channel 6 and Channel 8. And he might have been on more stations. And there he is. There's Alec Gifford, Bob Breck, a young Bob Breck, and then there's the Odd Couple. That must have been the show right after. But the fact is Buddy he was always interesting to listen to because you had Hap Claudy and Buddy doing sports and others, and Jim Henderson eventually. But when he got to the radio, when he could say whatever he wanted, it seemed, is when he got that status among the Saints faithful that he was the guy because he wasn't going to feed you any BS.
No, exactly. He told it like it was, and he got in trouble a couple of times. But that's a funny story. The bag has that's
the Aints,
the bartender at Buddy D's. He had a lounge. In fact, if you look at his career, my dad's career, and Hap Laudy's career, they kind of mirrored each other. They both went to Jesuit. Hap Laudy was a newspaper man with the Stateside. Daddy was a newspaper man for many years with the Times-Picayune. And then Hap went on to television with WWO, who Jim Henderson replaced him. And then Hap went on to WWO Radio. And my daddy followed, suit basically with the same career.
You know, he's one of the guys, and it's because I'm a New Orleanian, but I hadn't been living here for a long time when he passed away in 2005. But I remember exactly where I was when I got the news, and it was like a close love. When I was an agent, NBA agent in Kentucky, and Kentucky was playing Kansas that day, and I was about to get into Rupp Arena, and I got a call that he had passed away. And I remember I got chills right now because I was so sad. I stayed in the car for like 30 minutes before I went in. And that's the effect that he had on most of New Orleans.
Well, he was a homegrown New Orleans guy, and he was typical New Orleans. And really, New Orleans is not that big of a city where I don't think you can go anywhere without knowing someone that someone else knows. I mean, it's a pretty close-knit community.
Yeah, by the way, the dress thing, I got to bring that up right now. I wasn't going to stay on Buddy this long, but it's too good. He's the one, he says, the Saints win the Super Bowl, I'm going to wear a dress. And obviously, it was 4 years later, they won the Super Bowl, almost 5 years, really. And you know what? Now that became such a big thing. How many people were wearing dresses, Bobby Hebert included, when they went down into the first quarter?
I'll tell you, I got people, New York Times called me, wanting interviews, and were talking to me. Everybody around the country knew my daddy, and they all called. And several of them asked me the question, are you going to be out there wearing a dress? And I told them, I draw the line at wearing dresses. I said, but my older brother will definitely be wearing a dress. He actually had one made at a shop to wear. And my two youngest sons both wore dresses. And my sisters went.
But Mike said, I'm drawing the line.
I drew the line at the dress. I couldn't go for the dress.
I mean, listen, no one thought that the Saints would win a Super Bowl. If you grew up in the 70s like we did, and we saw what was going on, it was like, that was a huge day. Hey, let's go talk about what you do now. Because you're the line maker, the odds maker. How did you get into that business?
I guess you can blame it all on my grandfather. He loved the horses, and that's how all of us got into the racing. My daddy and my Uncle George used to bring us to the racetrack when I was like 12 years old, and my daddy would come back with numbers on the bottom of his program in each race, and I said, well, what are the numbers? And he would say, well, that's Buddy Abady's numbers. And then Captain Maestri, Lloyd Maestri, had a set. They were speed figure track. Before all of this information evolved and got into the racing form, they would make their own speed figures and all. So I started watching some of that, and my grandfather said, 2 pounds equals a length, and so when you look at the weight. So it was like a puzzle. It was really interesting to me. So I started doing that, and in 1990, when Brian Krantz bought the fairgrounds, they were looking for a new line maker. And I'd worked at the fairgrounds before, and Matt Coldice was the line maker for many, many years, one of the top line makers in the country. And I used to sit there and watch him, and he had an index. Boy, that was a tough way to do it because they didn't have the PPs and stuff, and you had to go through an index and chart.
There were no computers either back then. No.
Oh, no.
It was the old-fashioned
That
way.
was a really hard job.
Kind of like my fantasy football stats. I used to write them all out. Now it's all computerized and done.
It's all at his fingertips now.
So, no, but this is a unique gig. I mean, there's not many of these in the country, certainly not in the state of Louisiana. What is that like? You get some respect from some people, and you get knocked by some people, or anything you do like that. But it's a challenge. You got nothing but respect from me, I can tell you that.
It's a challenge, and it's fun to sit there and try and figure out who the people are going to bet on and what odds the horses are going to go off at.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I thought it was. I think doing the football and basketball lines is a tough gig because there's so many. But I feel like I get it within a half point or a point almost every time. Sometimes you're a little surprised. And if you are, take advantage of it.
And that's good.
But the fact is that your gig, I think, has to be incredibly hard because there's so many races, so many horses, and they're horses. It's not like teams where you see them all the time. I mean, how do you do that?
Well, just like you just talked about football. New England, that's a team that always gets money around the country because Tom Brady and they're so successful. Dallas Cowboys used to be that years ago. I mean, Saints locally get a lot of action. So you do that with trainers. Tom Amos, Steve Asmussen, Brad Cox, some of the leading trainers, Al Stahl. You automatically handicapping. When I do the line, I circle those trainers if they have horses in the race, just because I know they're going to be somewhere on the program, and I give them a big shot.
It's funny because two of those guys are two guys I know very well, Tom and Al. Love them. Hey, by the way, last thing, Justified. I mean, this is so rare. Sure, 2015. You had American Farrell win the Triple Crown. Before that, it had been 37 years. And you had 73, obviously, Secretariat, 77, Seattle Slew, 78, Affirmed. And that's what kind of got me into racing a little bit. But then 37 years, you have nothing, none. And then all of a sudden, 3 years later, you have it. So this is really a special thing.
Oh no, and you know if you follow history in horse racing, Triple Crowns generally come in bunches. In the 40s they had 4.
Yeah.
In the 40s they had 4. The 50s they had 3. Then in the 70s they had 3, and then we had that long drought. Now we got 2 in the last 3 years. I think we might have another one.
We might have another one. 2019. Look out! I got to tell you, Mike, it is a treat for me to meet you. You know, I love seeing Garrett Temple. I had met him. He might not remember this, but I met him back in the day as well. So it's nice to meet you, and obviously it was great telling Buddy Diliberto stories, and I think if I had another hour, I think I could fill it. But I appreciate you. I got a couple gifts for you. One, like I just said earlier, we just started giving away 2 gifts. You can have a gift certificate to Shays de la Shays, a restaurant uptown, and that's on Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Far from Bruno's.
Right? Oh, block away. David Milius. There you go. And that is Task Performance. It's a beautiful soft cotton. It's the bamboo fiber technology that makes it great. I love it. I wear Task every single day, and they're kind enough to give us some stuff to give away. So I appreciate you.
And believe me, I look forward to seeing you at the track when the meet opens.
Absolutely. Thanksgiving weekend, right?
Actually, the week before.
Oh, the week before.
Thanksgiving is usually the traditional opening,
crazy.
but we run that weekend before.
All right, I want some special VIP. All right, there you go. Hey, got to thank Garrett Temple, of course. Got to thank my man Kenny Farrell, the head coach of the Jesters, who gave you the World Cup, and of course Mike Diliberto and Buddy. Rest in peace, my friend, and everybody that works here at CST and WLE, where this show is produced by William Hill. And I got to thank everybody that's on the show: Naila, Anthony, and of course the Redhead Tsunami, and John Brady for hanging out with Garrett. I appreciate you as well. Thank you. We'll be right back next week, and I have a huge show next week. The next 2 weeks, star-studded. So stay tuned and be back. We'll see you next week.